Live look in Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine, which survived a Russian invasion this weekend. There was concern the city would have fallen, but officials say Ukrainian forces slowed the attack. Meanwhile, we're monitoring two major developments tomorrow that could determine when this attack will end, including a meeting between Russia and Ukraine. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Catherine Kissel. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has agreed for a Ukrainian delegation to meet with Russian negotiators at the Belarus border tomorrow. And President Joe Biden is also expected to have a meeting with U.S. allies to discuss the ongoing situation. This as people across the country showed their support for Ukraine, including right here in Portland. We want to start with Katu's Francis Lynn, who witnessed an emotional service in Fairview tonight with more than 1,000 people praying for Ukraine. Francis?
It was a beautiful service, and people told me they're not only worried about the attack right now, but the long-term consequences of it as well. Portland State University professor Sue says a long-term effect to keep in mind is competition for the energy market following sanctions against Russia.
Which means these sanctions include the end of energy imports from the Russian Federation. But you can't live without energy. So where is that energy coming from? It's coming from the United Arab Emirates, and more from the United States.
Tonight, beautiful music and prayers. Local Ukrainians are sharing this emotional time together.
It was a shock to see that happen, and I teared up for sure.
I couldn't kind of put myself together for probably 2 days.
They talked about the power of prayer.
We do believe God, and we want to do whatever we can do for our people, for our nation, for our brothers and sisters. We can pray because that's the most powerful weapon in the world.
We can't go to Ukraine, or we can't fight. The only thing we do at this point is pray and hope that God will intervene.
We are praying and asking God to save our country.
Members of our local community also attended.
May God bless Ukraine.
Superintendent Diaz with the Reynolds School District,
happiness, peace.
Superintendent Guerrero with Portland Public Schools, Mayor of Wood Village Scott Hardin.
My heart is with the children in Ukraine.
Portland Police Chief Chuck Lavelle.
And I'm a believer in prayer.
And Fairview City Council member Wendy Lawton.
And we stand with you.
COVID-19 hospitalizations are dropping steeply and are far outpacing the projections.
Dropping so fast indeed that the state is yet again pushing up the timeline to lift the mask requirement. Good evening. Thanks for joining us, everybody. K2 News at 6. I'm Steve Dunn.
And I'm Deborah Knapp. Come March 12th, the entire West Coast will make masking optional in schools. K2's Genevieve Rayom is live for us in Southeast Portland. And Genevieve, this announcement comes on a pretty important anniversary for Oregon.
Yeah, Deb, on this day 2 years ago, doctors diagnosed Oregon's first COVID-19 patient. It's been 2 years and we're still in this pandemic, but come March 12th, we'll be taking some significant steps towards normalcy.
It feels a little bit surreal, like another lifetime ago.
2 years ago today, Dr. Katie Sharp diagnosed the first COVID-19 patient in Oregon. It's been a long road, but she's cautiously optimistic about where we're heading.
We just have such a better grasp on this disease.
Thanks to the rapid descent from the Omicron peak over the last month, the timeline to axe the mask mandate in Oregon schools has moved up 3 weeks, from the 31st to the 19th, and now 11:59 p.m. March 11th, basically March 12th.
What we're really talking about here is a shift in responsibility.
At that point, individual school districts will be able to decide whether or not they want to keep masking. On Friday, the CDC loosened its COVID-19 guidelines, especially for students.
We have seen that although children can get infected and can get sick with COVID, they're more likely to have asymptomatic or mild infections. We're recommending that schools use the same guidance that we are recommending in general community settings.
The new framework says those counties in green and yellow no longer need to mask inside, including in schools. But those at high risk, the orange, should still mask up indoors. You can see about half of Oregon is high risk. While the statewide mask mandate will dissolve at the end of the day, March 11th, Oregon state leaders are suggesting, not mandating, counties at high risk keep the precaution in place.
We would encourage those local leaders to look at where they are as a community and to make decisions about potentially continuing masks or other things that can help reduce transmission in those communities.
Now, the state is also expected to release updated guidance for Oregon schools on Wednesday. That guidance relates to protocols in schools like contact tracing, quarantines, and testing.